Well, hello, good evening, and welcome to episode 43 of Humanity versus Insanity. There was no episode last week as I was still in Amsterdam having participated in the Open Mind conference. A conference that benefited from the establishment doing its level best to derail it by alleging that two of the participants were Holocaust deniers, that tired, old attempt at demonization. Well, it backfired dramatically because although the original venue pulled out, because it was next to a synagogue, coincidentally, but a new venue to the south of Amsterdam was established in very short time, and it was a packed house. And much of that was due to the establishment giving the event some publicity. And an increasing number of people realizing that any time the establishment tries to undermine something, then it's got to be something worth listening to. So an outstanding event with my good friends, Ken O'Keefe, Christopher Bolin, Ollie Damagard, and Frank Rasmussen. And it was supposed to be a two-day event, all crammed into one. Well, this week, what's happened over the past couple of weeks? Well, of course, we've had the Bilderberger meeting in Austria. And one thing we can be pretty sure about is that the meeting was not at the hotel where the media claimed it was. I think that the organizers have now got it down to a fine art. They direct all of the media and the alternative community in one direction and then hold the meeting somewhere else. Of course, this was pioneered at Watford, where the meeting didn't take place, but everybody descended upon Watford because they wanted it to be in Watford, but it was actually the other side of London in the Selsdon Park Hotel, which made a lot more sense, really, because it's just 20 minutes north of Gatwick. Well, what was on the agenda? Well, as is always the case, all you have to do, really, is look at what's being pumped out in the media. And the two issues that I think we probably need to focus on in the coming weeks and months are, number one, the move towards the cashless society. And I think it's a pretty fair bet that Denmark is being teed up to be the guinea pig there. But the other factor, of course, is bank bail-ins. And all of the European Union countries are effectively required to have bail-ins in their legislation by now, basically. And originally, of course, it was set for next year, but it's been pulled forward. So one can only suspect that with Greece on the brink of pulling out of the euro, which of course they should have done at the beginning of the year, but on the basis that it seems to be pretty much unsalvageable, that's going to leave a pretty big hole. And that hole is going to be filled by savers. So, as I have said on many, many occasions, if you've got anything in the bank, make sure it's an overdraft. Anything else is at risk. Anyway, it's pretty evident that things are moving afoot. The globalists are behind schedule and looking to ramp things up. And it's going to become increasingly important to consider other ways of living other than having a salary. Now, I, for one, haven't had a salary now in nearly 16 years. And in fact, I have no idea now what I would do if I was confined to a 9-to-5 working week with only a few hours either side to focus on my real goals. So there are other ways to live, but it's difficult to explain that unless you have the experience. But increasingly, a number of people are looking for ways to try to encourage people to consider the possibility of an alternate reality within this three-dimensional realm, but a reality that doesn't actually require one to have a salary. Now, I'm going to play a short trailer. This trailer was produced in 2012. It's for a film by the name of One by One. And after this, we're going to be talking to the producer of this film, Diane Jessie Miller. Now, this film actually features Rik Mayall, who sadly passed on almost exactly a year ago in June of 2014. This was Rick's last British project. He was involved in a subsequent Dutch project, but this was his last British project. But let's have a look at this trailer.
What if I told you you didn't need to work? That you don't need money, and you could have all that you needed. Every man, woman and child would be fed, watered and clothed, and live in harmony with the earth. This could be fact. When the end comes, not only won't we see it coming, we'll embrace it with open arms and pay 30% for the pleasure. It's time you knew the truth, to see the world as it truly is. When the men behind the curtain run out of enemies, you're next. The change is long overdue.
And see, no longer blinded by our eyes.
Okay, that was the first trailer, a teaser that was put out in 2012. Now, I'm joined tonight by the producer, Diane Jessie Miller, who is currently resident in Northern Ireland. Diane, hi, how are you doing?
Hello, how are you doing, Ian?
I'm good, thanks, and I can see that behind you, your head is nicely framed by a couple of posters for One by One, and we'll be talking about that a bit later. So now, Diane, I must confess that I was handed a copy of one of the very early scripts for this movie when, in fact, I'm not even sure it was intended it was going to be a movie, because I seem to remember being told that it was going to be for a play. And that was in almost 5.5 years ago, in 2010.
Yeah.
So what's happened since then?
God, it's been a whirlwind. So, you did get one of the very, very first drafts of a script where it was really, it was a concept by myself and Paul Spence. We came up with this idea for a drama piece of media. Be that originally it was a piece of theatre and ended up being a film, because we had just had our eyes open to what was going on in the world, and I wanted to talk about it with people. And every time I tried to have a conversation with friends and family at that time, I was called names like a communist or that's crazy, or just a conspiracy theorist. And I think Paul and I were both adamant that there had to be other people out there that didn't know what was going on in the world, but could feel in their gut that something wasn't quite right. So
what triggered this in your awareness?
But it was Paul. Sorry, your name is Paul Spence, but I know him as Spence. So he had seen a couple of documentaries, and I sat and watched them with him, and I just remember crying uncontrollably afterwards, going, "This feels like there's something not right." And then that for me planted a seed, and I began to kind of do reading and researching. I went to every seminar I could get my hands on. I went down to Glastonbury to see you. When Jack Fresco was over talking about the Venus Project, I went to see that in London. And just this was all through the course of 2009 leading into 2010, and I just knew that I had to do something. And I know that sounds a bit kind of messiah-y and things like that, but I wanted to talk about it, and I had to find other people that felt the same. And the only way I felt I could do that was to use the skills that I had learned in drama. So I started writing a play, and then eventually we kind of progressed that into a full-length feature, which then got torn apart again and then put back together into what we have now, really. It's been a long process. I mean, the first documentary I watched was in March 2009, so we're now in June 2015, so it's been a long road. But
nonetheless, that's still a pretty rapid commitment, if you like, because if you started to come into this arena, if you like, just 6 years ago, and then almost immediately got after writing the script, and within 2 years, basically, you started the filming.
Yeah, well, I turned 30 in 2010, and what I wanted was people to give me money to buy a camera, because once we'd gone from it being the idea of being a play, I was going to make a short film on a handheld camera, kind of Blair Witch style, if you like. And it was my 30th birthday, and a friend of mine, Matt Jules, who actually ended up being the camera operator on the feature, said, I'm not going to give you any money, but I'm going to come and film it for you. So suddenly, I was like, oh, this could be really good. So then I started talking to filmmakers and script editors and people like that, and everyone kind of thought that this was a really good idea because there wasn't another film, and there still isn't another film like it. And I think that was initially what attracted people to it. And then I think the ideas kind of started to resonate with other people as well after they read the scripts and stuff like that. But sorry, going back to 2010, I wanted to film the feature in summer 2010, and we didn't have any money at all, really. So we shot a promo, which was 2.5 minutes long, with a couple of members of cast that we'd auditioned for. And the idea was to use that promo to raise crowdfunding and everything like that we needed to make the feature the following year. And that's actually what ended up happening. We raised the money and filmed the feature. We started filming on the 5th of August 2011.
Okay, now you managed to attract Rik Mayall. Now, you know, most of us know Rik for his other roles, and I've got a few pictures here of Rik. Here's one with him. Let's hang on a second. We've got to go to this here. Here he is. This is Rik in the Young Ones. And I mean, which was really the first time that I became aware of him, and this was the early 80s, I think. And then, of course, he went into Blackadder with Rowan Atkinson, and as Lord Flashheart, and then reincarnated in Blackadder Goes Forth as the pilot. And I have to say, and I'm not going to repeat them on this show, but there are he had some absolutely wonderful lines, some very memorable lines in Blackadder Goes Forth. So, this Rik Mayall, and of course then he went to do Bottom with Ade Edmondson, and a number of other projects. And I also, by the way, recently learnt that he actually won an Emmy for a voiceover that I think in the late 90s. So, Rik sadly is no longer with us. But, I mean, this must have been really quite a coup to get Rik to participate in this project.
I remember getting the phone call because I sent the script to his agent on the Friday, hoping that he would read it. And I got a phone call on the Monday morning, and my co-producer and I, Ash Parker, were actually in a hospital, which we were looking at for a location and things like that. And I had a voicemail from his agent saying Rik wanted to do it. And I wept uncontrollably because Rik is, I mean, I grew up with Bottom Live, and all those shows are the ones that I loved him for because I was born in 1980, so I just about missed the Young Ones. But since then have watched them. And I couldn't believe that he wanted to do it because it was, the character that he plays, Ernest, is unlike anything he's ever played. It's not a comic role. He's not a bad guy in it. He is a straight down to earth. He's kind of like the soul of the film. And I think his performance, you can't take your eyes off him. And he said to me when he was filming, and quite a few others, that he wanted to be the next Anthony Hopkins. And I think that this film, had he not passed, would have been the stepping stone for that, to show, without being big-headed, but to show what other talents Rik had. I mean, his performance is outstanding in it. So,
I mean, Rik must have obviously made some comment during, off-camera moments about the script, either before you got into the project. I mean, do you think this was a philosophy that Rik was able to embrace, or do you think it was just the drama of the role that appealed to him?
No, I think it was the content of it. I remember standing with him on set outside one day having a chat because we were filming in August heat, and he said that he had been talking to his son about it, and his son said that this sounded like a really cool project and that he was very interested in the themes, and there were particular lines that really resonated with him, and that was the reason he did it. He said to me that he used to get about 100 scripts a week, and he would quite often just read the first few pages and then not continue with it. And he said, and I can't get over that, he said that he couldn't actually put my script down, and that for me is a massive, if I do nothing else in my life, that for me is enough. So,
well, now what I want to do, Diane, is I want to play the trailer that you released after you'd completed the filming. Now, you told me that the filming took place in just 25 days.
Mm-hmm. Not all together. It was kind of, we did 10 days back to back from a Friday night into the following Sunday night. And then we did kind of 10 days throughout leading up to October, and we finished filming in the middle of October. It was actually that weird year where we had a really hot October. But yeah, 25 days filming.
And the cost of that, which was all basically crowdfunded, wasn't insignificant, was it?
No, it was. We did it on 25 grand, and that doesn't just include filming. That includes all post production and things like that. So, I mean, that I am told is unheard of, to make a film like this with that money and with having someone like Rick in it. So I don't know how we did it. I must be really good at convincing people to give me some money. But I think everyone just kind of believed in the project and what we were trying to do. And I do think the strength of the promo that we put out in 2010 made people go, right, they're not lying, they're actually going to do this. And I think I'm a bit stubborn. I don't take no for an answer very well. So I was determined that I was, come hell or high water, I was making this film because it was so, and it still is, so passionate to me that people outside the AV community start waking up to what is going on in the world. And that's why it's called One by One. That if we can get to one person at a time, then soon it will be the majority that see how the world is running, not the minority. And that is really what I would like. So, yeah. Well,
let's take a look at this trailer because I think it's a powerful trailer.
We actually released it on December 25th as an alternative to the Queen's speech. So we released it exactly the same time as the Queen's speech.
Well, let's have a look at the trailer. And the trailer itself raises some things that we could talk about.
Okay. The whole universe holds its breath in anticipation when a person reaches a crossroads, waiting to see what they decide. And it doesn't breathe out until they choose their path.
There's no going back from this, Dion. Everything will change for you once you know.
Tell me.
You're a policeman, eh?
Police officer.
Why do you work?
Why do I work? To earn money? To live?
Well, that's where you're wrong. You don't need money to live.
Of course you do.
I can almost imagine us being frog marched away from our homes in a martial law kind of way. No one bats an eyelid.
We live in fear, and we're told to buy things that we don't need with money that we don't have.
Slow down. I don't know half of what you just said.
Oh, it's a lot to think about, Dion. That's what you got to do. Just take the time to think about it.
If a picture says 1,000 words, then our eyes can see 1,000 lies. See it to believe it.
Okay, now both those trailers that we've shown are up on YouTube, and that second trailer, as you said, was posted up on December 25th, 2013, so it's been up for just about 18 months or so.
Yeah.
Now, the whole issue, basically the program is set in a cafe,
Yeah.
and it's a group of friends sitting around the table there, debating the core issues that we consider to be essential to any conversation. But if somebody's coming at it for the first time, of course, then it can be a little hard to grasp.
Yeah, but that's why, because a lot of it is based in the cafe, and most of the conversations do occur in that cafe. But Dion, who's our leading lady, is almost the surrogate for the audience, that she goes on this journey and they go with her, because I was very aware that all of us could stand on our soapbox and talk for hours about the things that we believe and what we don't feel is right in the world, and so on and so forth. So I needed to be very careful in what I said and the way I said it to kind of, I don't want to use the word drip feed because that just sounds patronising, but I think if you bombard someone with too much information, it becomes too much. So it's all about Dion's journey, and hopefully the audience will go with her on it, and something will stick in their mind, and they'll go, I want to look at that because that didn't sit right with me. So
it's sowing the seed, isn't it? Really, and I mean, this is the trap that a lot of people who suddenly come to the realization that maybe the world isn't quite the way they cracked it up to be. They can become somewhat evangelical, and they can actually become a social pariah. Where everybody wants.
I definitely was. First 6 months after I wanted to talk, and I stopped getting invited to parties because that's all I wanted to talk about. So it is, I think, when you finally become aware of these sorts of things, and it's not just like you watch one documentary or 3 documentaries and you know it all. You watch or read something, and then that leads you to something else, and then that leads you to something else, and it's just continuous. The stuff that we're becoming aware of every single day is just more and more and more, and it does even now, it makes my head spin, to the point where you kind of go, I can't believe that there's not more people that are aware of this. So, yeah.
Well, that of course is the other problem, is that once people do see through the veneer, they actually can't understand why it is that everybody else doesn't see what they see. Which, of course, just fuels their evangelical approach, which, of course, adds to their being the social outcast. And then they have to go through this process of readjustment into polite society, as it were, to be able to find a way to actually reintegrate and then sow the seeds at the appropriate moment. Because otherwise, obviously, if you are sowing the seeds all day, every day, then the vast majority of them are going to fall on the proverbial stony ground.
Yeah, absolutely. And you end up talking to yourself because people switch off to it. You do end up sounding like you're on a soapbox. And that's kind of not what we want to do with One by One. I'm under no illusions. Some people are going to go into the cinema or see it and go, oh, that's a load of rubbish, and probably argue against it. But what that's going to do is the seed's already there. So even if they don't like it, they're already going to talk about it, which is what I really wanted. And I know that Ash, my business partner and co-producer, wanted as well, is for people to have it there and just it not sit right. Because there are things in there we bring up that I believe, there's 2 particular scenes, I'm not going to say what they are because I want people to see it, but that I think will make people go, oh, okay, that's not sitting well with me. So, yeah.
Well, the reality is that if people agree with everything, then they'll just basically walk out of the cinema and say, that was a good film. It's when people don't agree with stuff that actually that's what triggers curiosity. Yeah. Because they don't like to think they're wrong, and they'd actually like to think you're wrong, or whatever the film's trying to portray is wrong, and that may lead them to then do their further research.
Yeah, absolutely. People don't want to be told that their whole life is a lie. I mean, I didn't, and that's what I felt. I felt like my whole life I was being told that everything I knew from the age of, well, till 29 was based on a lie. And that is a hard pill to swallow.
Hey, listen, you're ahead of the curve. I was 34. Yeah, really, I was 34. It was when I was in Kuwait in 1991 that, the realization that everything I thought I knew was a complete crock of crap really sort of came home. And, of course, that was before the days of the internet. So, there wasn't too much I could do with it except deal with it, basically, at the time. Fortunately, a few years later, the universe came to my rescue and provided us with the tool that we now absolutely rely on to be able to access information and to, of course, to be able to share information.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, it is like you said. It's a little bit like the Matrix. Sorry to harp on about that, but it's a little bit like the Matrix. You take the blue pill or the red pill, and I mean, there's some days I wish I'd taken the other one and I was still asleep, because some days you just go, this is massive, this is huge. How do I deal with this? And I think the biggest thing there is to know that you're not on your own. If you are experiencing these sorts of things for the first time, there's yourself or a wealth of other people out there that can just talk to you about it. And I think that is the biggest thing, to realise that if you do become awake to it, that you're not on your own at all.
Well, it's very, very interesting, because in Amsterdam this past weekend, it was originally scheduled to be a 2-day conference, and because of the events I described at the start of the programme, it was condensed into 1 day. But everybody really, enjoyed the day's event so much that they asked if we could actually all get together on an informal basis on the Sunday. So actually, we all met in the Vondel Park. It was a beautiful, beautiful Sunday afternoon. The skies were actually clear blue, which apparently they weren't in Amsterdam today, but I'll save that for another time. So the skies were absolutely stunning. And I actually ended up holding a sort of an impromptu workshop talking about the non-material realm and basically a lot of the tools that we have access to, which cannot be described in reductionist Newtonian terms, but which, if we actually embrace through the experience, they're not deniable either. And of course, the beauty of this is all around the world, more and more people are starting to realise that there is way more to what we term life, this 28,000 days that we are confined to this physical, empirical, material arena. But there's way more to it than the establishment would have us believe.
Buying things with money you don't have. I think that's kind of one of the things we say quite a lot throughout the film. Buying stuff you don't need with money you don't have. It's a kind of a constant oppression.
Well, that original quote, I think, is attributable to George Carlin.
Yeah. And
I think the quote was, buying shit you don't need with money you don't have.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
And paying 30% interest for the privilege.
Sorry, say again?
And paying 30% interest.
Oh, and paying 30%
for the privilege, yeah. Yeah. So, and that is a great quote. And of course, it is so true. The policeman that we just saw in the clip there, of course, when asked why he works, he says to live. And of course, it is a remarkable entrapment, isn't it? They say the pen is mightier than the sword. No question about that. Now, I do want to make a reference to our mutual friend, Spencer, because, if it wasn't for Spencer, I would probably not be aware of this project. And, of course, it was Spencer that handed me the script back in 2010, so although it was an early script. But I'm, honoured to consider Spencer a good friend. And I got a couple of great pictures of him here. Here's one from Balkan when he came down to Balkan.
Yes, Ben.
Yeah, that was at the Balkan campaign, preventing Quadrilla from conducting their frack there. And then Spencer actually came up to Barton Moss, and I can't remember, I think this was either Christmas or New Year, it might have been New Year's Eve. But he literally drove up from Bracknell to provide the entertainment in the yurt to the Barton Moss community on, I'm pretty sure it was New Year's Eve. And, basically once he'd come round in the morning, pretty much drove back. So
that sounds about right.
And he's been an absolute asset at the recent AV events, AV5 and AV6. And as I said to him today, it's just real nice to know that he's there. He's got my back. He's just an absolute asset. So it's wonderful that he's been so supportive to you over the last 5 years or so.
But I mean, without him, there wouldn't be a film, because without him showing me the documentaries and us talking about it and having a drink and discussing it more and getting quite angry about it, this project wouldn't be where it is. I mean, the concept was ours. It's very much mine and Spencer's, and he did do. He's got a credit for additional material because there are bits of it that he has written in it. There wouldn't be a project without him, and he's my best friend and I love him to pieces. So he's definitely a character. If you've not met him, you're in for a treat when you do.
Is he going to be at the screenings?
Yes, I hope so. I've assumed that he's going to be. So,
okay, well, we'll talk about that in just a second. But I mean, before we talk about the screenings, I just want to make reference to Rik Mayall, because we have lost an amazing talent here. And he actually was 2 years younger than me, or 3 years younger than me when he passed. It's always tragic, when young people, because he was young when young people pass. And of course, he's survived by his wife Barbara and 3 children. And I hope that they will be very proud of the contribution that he's made to One by One.
I hope so too. I really hope so too, because I know that he was very proud of being in this project. I mean, after we finished filming, I had to go to see him to just do bits of paperwork, as you have to do. And I remember sitting there with him, and at that point I smoked. So I was sat there smoking and drinking tea and putting the world to rights with Rik Mayall, the god Rik Mayall. And he just believed so passionately in what we were doing as a group of people and the story, and just I can't get over it. I mean, I think that we have lost a true light in the world. He is an incredible spirit.
Well, I think from what little I've seen of him in the trailers, it is a side of Rik Mayall that I don't think we'd seen in his work to date, and maybe his ambition to have been the next Anthony Hopkins may well have been fulfilled, because there's no question he presented the role with absolute gravitas.
Yeah.
A real absolute asset to your production. So obviously now we want people to see the film. It's been a long time in the making, and you know what? Everything has its moment. I mean, sometimes, we want to get stuff out there, we want to talk about stuff, but everything has its moment, and, it has been a long time coming. And, I might argue that had it been released in 2011 or even 2012, then it might have been too soon. But yeah. I think that, now there is no question there is an increasing number of people that are not only ready for it and will embrace it, but hopefully, of course, will bring their loved ones and friends along to see it.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you there. I mean, from when we first started doing the project, like I said, there were friends and family members that didn't necessarily agree with the things that I was saying. And then there has been in the last year a real turnaround in those sorts of people that have they never used the word do or right, because I would never want them to, but kind of talking about these things like I don't know about them, which I love. I love that they're so passionate about it and they want to talk about it. And I do think you're right that if this film had been released in 2012 or 2013, it would have been the wrong time for it. I think so much has happened in the last 18 months to 2 years that there is civil unrest. I mean, there's more people taking to the streets. I mean, after that, I use the word election very loosely, and the referendum in Ireland for equal marriage and things like that, people are starting to take control, and I think now is the right time for One by One to get out there.
Absolutely. So the screening date, here's the poster. This is the poster that people should look out for, One by One, and here's the dates that are confirmed. So it's actually going to be premiered in Nottingham, on the 19th and the 21st, 2 screenings on each day at 4 o'clock and 7 o'clock. And then on the 25th of June in Romford. So if you are able to get along to one of those screenings, then I would certainly encourage you to do so. In fact, I'm hoping to get along to at least one of those. I can't actually commit to one at the moment, but I would absolutely love to be able to show my support to you guys, because I think it is an exceptional project. Diane, I got to leave you. Thank you so much for joining me this evening.
Thank you so much. And just really quickly, I just want to add on the screening at 7 p.m. on the 21st and the one in Romford on the 25th, we will be there doing Q&As and things like that. So if anyone wants to come down and talk to us, please do. Ian, thank you so much for having us and for supporting us.
An absolute pleasure, Diane. Look forward to hooking up with you before the end of the month.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks a lot. Take care now. Okay, well, there's a film. I'm certainly going to see it. I haven't seen it yet. I've only seen exactly what you've seen, the trailers, and that's enough to get me to go take a look at it. Now, there's another project that I just want to talk about on a similar vein, and this is by another young filmmaker, Christian van Wyk, who is obviously Dutch. Now, Christian actually has directed a couple of films in recent years. In 2015, The Scandalous Four, and ironically, in 2014, a film titled Voices from the Forest. Coincidental, of course, that I should produce Voices from the Gas Fields this year. Now, last year, Christian was chasing me to participate in an interview, but I was pretty busy. Obviously, I was at Barton Moss for the first part of the year, and then subsequently at Crawberry Hill. Well, Christian eventually tracked me down to Crawberry Hill in August of last year and spent the day interviewing me. And lo and behold, apparently some of that interview and a number of other discussions he had with other people have manifested in a movie. And here we are. This is a graphic that Christian provided me with. The film is called Mind the Matrix. Now, unlike One by One, which is a drama, this is a number of people discussing their insights and experience. So I'm going to just play a short part of the trailer for Mind the Matrix. So take a look at this.
South American shamans drink this mixture of plants to see through the veil of illusion. What I was shown in my experience led me to believe that humanity is stuck in a matrix. A matrix that doesn't just dissolve after death. It is one of the reasons for our endless reincarnation cycle. It was hard for me to determine who or what was keeping humanity enslaved like this. I was told by a guiding voice to go back into my body and do the only thing I and the rest of humanity can do: expand our consciousness beyond the limiting boundaries of the matrix. I decided to find out more about what is really happening behind the scenes, like who is running the show, and what humanity can do to break free through the expansion of consciousness. My journey led me to many insights and people who shared with me what they believe is in fact going on.
That when you start to wake up and you want desperately to go back to sleep, you can if you want to, but it ain't going to do you no good.
There is something that is driving an agenda to keep humanity in a subjugated state.
The system has got us in economic slavery. We've been as slaves on this island since William the Conqueror.
Imagine for a moment that I told you the world is run by crazy people. Does it suddenly make a lot of sense why the world seems so crazy?
So we've lost our ability and our mental formatting as a society to think and see holistically.
You know, we damaged most of our water systems of the world. We damaged our air systems with pollution. We've destroyed most of the world's soil in the last 150 years. Our food's depleted in nutrition.
We're designed to come from a place of unconsciousness and become conscious. We're designed to learn like a child.
As we've come to a stage now where we've created so much in the outside world, it's time to revert back to the inside world. And
we need to reconnect with each other and reconnect with the earth to bring about sacred reciprocity with each other and the earth so that we can survive into the future.
Okay, that's Mind the Matrix, and that is available on Vimeo. And it is a pay-per-view. It's $1. So that's, I think, about 60-something pence to view it. It runs for 2 hours, 20 minutes, so it's a full evening's viewing. But if you do get the opportunity to watch it, let me know what you think, because I haven't seen it myself yet. So anyway, thanks, Christiane, for the efforts in putting that out. Two wonderful female filmmakers. How wonderful to see the ladies getting involved in the alternative community. Now, finally, this evening, AV6 DVDs. A number of people are asking about AV6 DVDs. They're currently in post-production. The target date for release and for dispatch is the 30th of June. So if you want to order them, here we have the graphic up on the screen here. If you wish to order these, then they are available from alternativeview.co.uk or my website, ianrcrane.com. Do we not have the graphic on the screen? No, apparently not. Okay, there we go. AV6 DVDs. And then I literally got a little frustrated with the number of emails and phone calls asking whether or not I was going to do another Alternative View event. So rather than keep responding, I just decided to get my butt in gear and get the ball rolling for AV7. So I'm just tying up a few details with the venue. We've got an outstanding venue, and we will have a core lineup of speakers. 6 speakers probably, or 5 speakers from this year, including Ken O'Keefe, Patrick Henningsen, Brian Gerrish, and I think that's the core, and Dr. Graham Downing, and then the other speakers will evolve during the course of the year as the agenda unfolds. Now, we put some early bird tickets on sale. We put 50 early bird tickets on sale. There's only 7 remaining as I speak now. And they're available on alternativeview.co.uk or my website, ianrcrane.com. Thanks for joining us this evening. 2 great films to look out for, One by One and Mind the Matrix, and I will see you in 2 weeks.